Hey Radicals, welcome back to the Radically Rachael Podcast. Last week I was in teacher mode when I was sharing with you the episode about spirit guides, but this week's episode features some narrative storytelling. This is part one of a few episodes that will be sprinkled throughout this season that will share some stories surrounding my marriage and divorce. I want to note that I am changing the names of these characters in the story today because I want to protect their identity. However, I remain sovereign over my stories and my experiences, and I get to decide the stories that I want to share. And my general mantra or rule of thumb has become, if you didn't want me to share about it, then you shouldn't have done it in the first place. And with that, let's dive in. I fell in love with my ex-best friend's ex-girlfriend at a karaoke bar. Yeah, you must have so many questions. Let me paint this picture for you. I moved home after college and was lucky to land a teaching position 5 days before the first day of school. It was the only interview I had had, and I was thrilled to begin teaching 3rd grade. My first year teaching, I was pretty deep in learning my curriculum and hosting the school-wide talent show. My best friends were 8-year-olds and some Golden Girl-esque colleagues that I had befriended in the teacher's lounge, which I called the land of the lean cuisines. It was the beginning of spring, and I had just ended things with my college boyfriend, Drew, and I wanted to go out on the town, to see and be seen by all the local babes. Working in education, there aren't many guys to check out. There are mostly women and children, tons of children. It was always a special treat when the firemen came to do their fire safety presentation each year, if you know what I mean. I wasn't within walking distance of frat houses and the uptown bars as I had been in college. So, like all the other suburbanites do, you wind up at a towny bar. I had never actually gone to any bars where I lived at the time. I don't care what zip code you live in, East Coast to West Coast, beaches, flatlands to mountains. Every town has a bar like JB's. This watering hole will draw in a diverse crowd, being a home to many seeking refuge. There is always a bartender beloved by many who makes you feel like a star, and she gives you way too many drinks on the house. The joint is a little rugged, might have a foul stench somewhere, but nobody seems to care. Everyone is always having a good time. To some, it was the spot for every major game, pizza, wings, and pitchers abounding. Maybe it was the allure of karaoke in the basement 7 days a week. Yes, I'm serious, 7 days a week. For some, JB's was a high school reunion, pending whether that is your version of heaven or hell. For others, it was the outdoor patio, which paired nicely when I was in my smoking phase. JB's was like Cheers and McLaren's. You know, every town has a bar like JB's. As a little girl, my family would drive past this bar often, as it was in a major cross-section between my high school and community college. The bar was painted white outside, with purple and teal accents. A giant palm tree stood out at the front. Karaoke Lounge was painted in yellow lettering. As a little girl who loved to be the center of attention, I always knew inside that someday I would sing at that bar. At 10, you could find me practicing Destiny's Child's Say My Name on my MTV karaoke machine. Funny enough, my now partner Christian says that he would drive past there with disgust, vowing to never set foot in there. Little did he know his future bae was just inside. "That's the bar where someone got shot," he says. It's true. That happened once when we were kids. Nonetheless, this particular night when I was newly single, I was itching to go out. Something big was coming. I felt it. Kind of like Tony before he meets Maria in West Side Story. I felt the energy of something coming. A few friends and I began to frequent the bar on weekends in the spring. I was never a huge bar fly before, but the lifestyle was suddenly appealing. I found myself there on Fridays after school and Saturday nights. Post-breakup, I was hungry for attention. The karaoke stage was the perfect place to escape inside myself and to be seen at the same time. It felt good to be on stage, even if it was a 5 by 10 foot dank basement stage. I was under the lights, baby. I even karaoke'd on a Sunday once and worked on Monday hungover. The one and only time in my career that ever happened, and I 10 out of 10 would not recommend. Hangovers and third grade don't mix. JB's, like all bars, drew in a variety of people anxious to get their thirst quenched. There were the homecoming court regulars, actually in their late 30s, early 40s. They always sat together at the high tops and mingled exclusively together. They were well known for their stage appearances and had beloved songs that they covered frequently. They weren't so welcoming to newbies at the bar. They came off as cliquey and exclusive, which was evident from the "you can't sit with us" glares you'd get as you had to pass to get to the bathroom. One of these first nights that I visited the karaoke bar, I saw an old friend of mine from high school, Desi. Desi and I were once best friends, but we had had a lot of tumultuous drama that ultimately led me to decide I didn't want to be friends anymore. I met Desi in middle school choir, but we became friends in high school drama class. We were inseparable. Got ready for dances together, had sleepovers, and we laughed a lot. We were so silly together. At some point in high school, my best friends began going to parties and experimenting with drinking and drugs. They wouldn't invite me or tell me the truth about their weekends when we talked on Monday morning. Sometimes they would show up to school high, and I wouldn't even know. They knew that at that time in my Christian faith, I would judge or lecture them from my high horse, which that is exactly what I did. I was a self-proclaimed straight edge, and I got off on being impervious to temptation. Really, I just was isolating myself, and my friends didn't feel safe confiding in me or being their authentic selves, and I don't blame them. My friend Desi additionally had a lot of mental health struggles, and mixing substances and medication can be a scary and lethal cocktail. She often said that she didn't think that she would live into her 20s. And looking at some of the situations she found herself in, she was lucky to still be alive. At the end of senior year, Desi's dad drove her to my house and we had a friendship breakup. For years, I had been her shoulder and confidant, and I had ridden the ups and downs of her choices with her. But I was ready to get off the ride. Due to the nature of my own traumatic childhood, I didn't realize that I actively pulled away from my friends when they felt unsafe and volatile. I had surrounded myself with friends who made me feel safe, secure, and protected. But if they began to crumble, who would hold and support me? And I know now that that isn't logical thinking, but that's just how I was feeling in high school at the time. I know that Desi and I had a beautiful friendship, but I wanted her to get help, and I wanted her to take the reins of her life. I didn't want to be her ride or die anymore. Desi and I both went to the local community college for a few years. If I saw her on campus, we would be pleasant and maybe catch up and chit-chat. There was even a short period of time where she and her boyfriend took me on a double date to set me up with a friend of theirs. We attempted friendship again, but I never let myself get too close. I still didn't want to be a part of the wreckage. She probably didn't realize I was keeping her at length and trying to protect myself. I transferred later to the State University as a junior and lived with Kelsey Ann. Kelsey Ann was my best friend from elementary school. You've met her in earlier episodes. She was also in the same partying friend group from high school. One day at the beginning of senior year of college, I was dyeing my bangs blonde when I got a call from Desi. Desi.
Hey, what's up? What are you up to?
Me. I am actually dyeing my hair right now. How about you?
Do you still go to that state school with Kelsey Ann?
Yeah, I do. We don't live together anymore, but yeah.
Are you there right now?
Yeah.
Cool. I am too. I am with someone, and we're dropping their brother off at his dorm. Can we come by and say hi?
Sure.
Can you call Kelsey and have her come over too? I want you both to meet someone. My girlfriend.
This wasn't the first moment that a friend had come out to me. I wanted to be supportive, but also play cool. Oh, cool. Yeah, I can.
Awesome. Okay, text me your address.
I immediately dialed Kelsey Ann. Kelsey, you've got to come over right now. Desi is going to be here soon with her girlfriend. What? Girlfriend? Is she lesbian now? Kelsey Ann replied. I don't know, but she wants us to meet her. Hurry up and get over here. I hissed into the phone. So much for playing it cool. I finished drying my bangs just as Kelsey arrived. My bangs were a brassy shade of orange. We caught up for a few minutes. We were both not only shocked that Desi had a girlfriend, but we were also confused and surprised that she wanted us to meet her. Desi arrived and sent me a text. I walked out my back door to greet them in the parking lot. Desi and her girlfriend were a few yards away, sharing the last few drags of a cigarette. Desi's eyes bulged when she saw me. So, she's a smoker and a lesbian now? I thought to myself. We all greeted one another, and I led them inside. This is my girlfriend, Sam, Desi said, introducing her to Kelsey and my other roommate, Natalie, who had just arrived home to witness the most random encounter. Natalie, Kelsey, and I all sat on my couch. Sam sat in the oversized chair with Desi on her lap across from us. There were a few moments of silence that felt like forever. We exchanged pleasantries, asked how they'd met, and got to know one another. Honestly, today, I can't tell you what we talked about exactly, but I can tell you that I was very caught off guard by how attractive Sam was, or how attracted to her I was, though I didn't know what that feeling was at the time. Sam had piercing blue eyes with small wrinkles at the corners from smiling. She had a calm and cool presence about her. She didn't seem to be nervous, sitting at ends across from 3 relative strangers. Her dark blonde hair was longer and swooped across her forehead. It flipped up at the edges behind her ears. Very Justin Bieber meets Renee Rapp. I think this was the first time I was up close and personal with an actual queer woman in any capacity, which is a bit embarrassing to admit. I was intrigued by her style and her vibe. I definitely know I couldn't stop staring. When I was home a few months later, I met up with them again to go to a haunted hike event. They seemed happy. The next time I saw or spoke to Desi was 2 years later, the same spring that I found myself back home, single, and looking to mingle in the towny bars. One of those first nights out, I ran into Desi and Sam at JB's. I entered the bar and headed down to the basement where karaoke could be found. I could hear someone belting out Sweet Caroline louder with every step. As I reached for the handle of the door, my neighbor friend Kylie squeezed my other hand with an excited pump. She'd been my neighbor since I was 7, and we had never been to a bar together before. We both loved to sing and couldn't wait to request a duet. Upon entering the small basement bar, the stage is to your left with a few low tables near its front. As you continue walking in, to the right you'll reach the bar that has maybe 10 chairs along the taps. A cute and curvy bartender with space buns is sashaying around behind the bar, making every drink she pours like its own unique dance. Spins here and a bottle flip there. This woman knows what she's doing. Across from the bar, there are a few more large high-top tables with a mirrored wall along the other side. There are bar flags and Christmas lights strung to the low ceiling. A few screens around the room flash the lyrics to the song, which is now a song I don't think I've ever heard before. The room has maybe 20 patrons peppered around at the tables. I notice Desi right away as I approach the bar for a vodka cranberry. She is sitting by herself, and despite the way she smiles and gregariously greets me when I approach, I can tell she is upset. I just know Desi. Kylie orders our drinks while I get the spark notes from Desi. As I am facing her to listen, I notice Sam beyond her shoulder. Sam is grinning at the center of a few people as she tells a story. I can tell that everyone around her is charmed and laughing. Desi is brooding and recounting a fight they had, and another, and another. The details a bit intense. The fighting a bit too scary. Something about a hole getting kicked in a cabinet, locking each other out of the house, the neighbors calling the cops. Whoa, things had gone from happy to horrific from the last encounter I'd had with them. Now, today, Rachel, here and now in the present, I can tell you that Desi and I both witnessed a lot of abuse in our childhoods. We both were physically, emotionally, and verbally abused. I know that now. At that time, she and I didn't quite know that it was abuse, but we both knew we had both seen our fair share of hard times at home. Perhaps that is why, when she recounted to me a story about conflicts she'd had with Sam, it didn't seem that bad. It didn't seem that scary to me. She asked if I would come over to her place later in the week to catch up some more. I reluctantly made plans to stop by her and Sam's place. Desi walked back over to Sam and tried to rejoin their clique. Whatever her and Sam were going through, they were trying to repair it. Desi's loud laugh mixed with the rest, and she nestled under Sam's arm. Sam gave me a nod of the head from across the bar. A greeting? Surely she must have assumed that Desi was just giving me the lowdown on the chaos happening in their relationship. Her eyes locked with mine for a moment longer. I always knew that Desi found herself in risky situations. What I didn't know was if Sam was the moth caught in her flame or igniter fluid, risking a massive explosion. So, I fell in love with my ex-best friend's ex-girlfriend at a karaoke bar. Maybe not on this night exactly, but this was just the beginning. Over the coming days and weeks, I began to develop a friendship with Sam, specifically as her and Desi's relationship was falling apart. I felt like Sam didn't have anyone to talk to because they had shared so many friends in common, and it was pretty clear that Desi and I were no longer really friends in the present. At the time, I thought that Sam was in a toxic and abusive relationship, and I encouraged her to get out, and I encouraged her to end the relationship for her safety, but also for Desi's. It was clear that they were not healthy for one another. Along the way, I definitely began to recognize my attraction towards Sam. We'd be at the karaoke bar sometimes, and she would romance me in ways that I had never been romanced before. She would cover my whole bar tab. She would buy drinks or shots for my friends. She was charismatic and suave. She was friends with everyone. And I hate to admit it, but I can remember one specific occurrence where I looked at her and she was smoking a cigarette, and I thought, I'm in trouble. At the time, I was leading for a Christian theater organization. I was serving at a large megachurch, leading a small group of teen girls. I had just gone through my first major breakup. And I was definitely on the precipice of a whole new version of Rachael.